Starting to collect a 40k army is very cool. Getting your list ready, building and painting your army, and finally see them all together on the tabletop. But with so many cool options and with so many new models coming out basically every month, is A, very hard to choose just one, and B, hard to keep the investment in the same one. So today I'm gonna show you my secrets to build a new Warhammer 40k army that you won't get bored with and that will keep you hooked to the hobby. The first step is getting your models. So I'll head to a Warhammer store. Physical store is better, but online store, it's fine. I personally choose my models based on their aesthetics rather than how they perform on the battlefield because I don't know shit about gaming. Deal with that. And to get an idea what you might like, you can simply look at the box art or even just browse Instagram or other platforms like that to get an idea going and see what other people are doing with that faction and get inspired. Every time I have a chance to visit a physical store, what I like to do is take a look at the codexes as well because, you know, they have all these artworks and alternative color schemes that really inspire me. The only part that I look at, really. Another thing that you can look for in the codexes is the lore. The story of your army, of your characters, might be what drives you to pick that specific one. You know, it gives a little bit of depth and history to your project. You can definitely skip it if it's not for you. In the case of today's armies, I was tempted by two different factions, Aeldari and Imperial Guard. I pretty much was inspired by what I saw in Warhammer community rather than what I saw in the store. Maybe for the Aeldari because I picked them in the actual store. The paint jobs that actually inspired me to pick these specific factions were one from Cult of Paint for Imperial Guard and one from Trevelyan. But you know, which one do I choose? They're both so beautiful. You don't need to get a whole box of miniatures or getting them at the store. There are plenty of cheaper options out there, like getting them secondhand on eBay or looking at marketplaces on Facebook. Even though it might be kind of hard to find single models, you're more likely to find big armies that you have to commit to right away, but we don't want commitment, right? Not right away. But you guys, I bet you know how to do that. You're way smarter than me. In order to decide whether to commit to Aeldari or Imperial Guard, I'm gonna do some testing. A pivotal part to pick the right army is to find the right color scheme. And in order to test that, I'm gonna test that in order to see which one I enjoy painting more. This will not just allow me to find the right combination of colors, but also to get a feel for the models. Are they too small? Are they too fidgety? Are they too hard to assemble? Do they have too many parts and they're pretty annoying to build? Is there possibility of conversion, of creativity, of This has a very important role into the not getting bored part, because we have to ask ourselves how much space for variation and creativity does this army leave us with. Starting off with Eldar, my color scheme here was heavily influenced by the model Trevelyan painted on his channel a while ago, like I said. A color shifting armor, very simple but very effective, hopefully. While I do this, let's talk about why I think that having a single army is a big benefit for your relationship with the hobby. Painting-wise, the answer is pretty easy. Having the same or a similar process across more than one model will allow you to train a specific skill set that you can add to your tool belt. And this is true for both beginners, intermediates, and advanced painters. For the first two, repetition will allow them to consolidate a certain skill or interject certain processes, whilst the advanced painter can both work on speed skills and maybe just focusing on one part and giving 100% and then cutting corners on the rest, so you can have a beautiful army still training your advanced painting skills. Take having an army as a loot of test models to test your skills for competitions. So also, if you like me, you tend to get bored really quickly, your challenge will be a creative one. You know, in order to have more variation without exiting the lore or the background of the army you're painting, or maybe even building your own lore. So yeah, creativity at its peak. The other big benefit of having just one army that will keep you obsessed with Warhammer is collecting. Is there anything more hot than seeing your whole army on the table? Is there anything more satisfying than finishing a whole squad or troop or whatever and putting them away in the cabinet looking at them? Is there? Is there?
No.
That plays a big role in the not getting bored part. Trying to really enjoy the small collector moments.
I'm always kind of unsatisfied with my turquoises because I always feel like they are too on the cyan side. So for this one, I decided to start with a more greenish color using contrast emerald green, but of course, then it was too green. So I kind of washed all the model with Aeldari emerald, dug it down with magenta and diluted with contrast medium. And for the armor, I'm gonna stop right here. That's my conscious choice. For me, it already looks pretty good and it stands out to the eye. Using contrast paints basically creates natural edge highlights, which is good. And now I'm gonna move on to painting the other details.
There's something really special to see all the models together. Something that really brings me back to my childhood, maybe. And another thing, building an army, the quality of the paint job really doesn't matter because altogether they're gonna look cool. Even if they're simply painted, they're gonna look cool. So why wouldn't you do it?
Moving on to the Imperial Guard, this was a bit more tricky. After getting some inspiration from old codices and the internet, I started base coating the clothes with black contrast paint. I was pretty sure that I wanted to have a combination of a very light ochre on the armor and black on the uniform. A mix between the 31th Araconi and the 102nd Moloch. I can't read numbers, okay? So I had to come up with a camo pattern I both liked and it worked out for the colors that I picked. These past few months I have developed a new approach to speed painting, an approach that combines contrast-like techniques with flat and matte defined layers. No fancy blending, no real skill required really, cutting corners where I can, enjoying the slow build up in others. The goal for both these paint jobs was to find a color scheme as well as using an approach that will allow me to repeat this process without getting bored to tears. This for me means both focusing on the pleasure of the process itself and watching my miniatures slowly build up into a true army. Fair to say that I came up with this whole approach because since January I've been painting my whole pile of shame. It's taking a ton of time. I'm going slow and steady rather than fast and dump, but that future video is most certainly a reason to subscribe right now. Wink. When I started doing the camo patterns, I kinda panicked. And this made me rethink the whole video idea because I didn't feel like I was coming up with a good enough painted model. But then I thought, hey, that's the whole point of doing a test model, isn't it? Again, I think this clean and precise approach has been heavily inspired by Thorvarian, both in the Elder video and in the Blood Bowl Orc one. It's so satisfying to have a model that's well-defined and well-readable, especially if you're painting your own army. Well, anyway, I ended up doing these green patterns only in the clothing part, defining the edges with the same color that I used for the armor. Like I said, I wasn't convinced because those lighter edges were popping way too much, so I simply changed them, using a warm brown that blended more with the clothes themselves. Camo patterns are really satisfying to paint, and they take way less time than you actually think. Here's the comparison of these two models. I'm pretty happy how they turned out.
After all this process, you finally decided what army are you gonna build. It's time for actually building it, you know? And this means deciding what you wanna get. Basically building an army list. Like I said, I am no player. I don't even get points. You know, you can tell me I have a 500 points army and I can go like, that's impressive. So really I have no idea about points or actual gaming list armies, but even if I don't play, I still enjoy building my troops. Deciding if I want to go with heavy supports, lighter supports, if I want to be faster or more heavy with weapons, it's just a fun process for me. And what about you? Which one do you like the most? Which one would you have chosen? Do you have an army list that really makes you happy? Tell me in the comments. See you there.